that. And let's move on now to topic number three. Topic number three is February 2022, this month, marks 10 years since when the Mecha Sally arc saw her transformation to being weaponized. And in case you guys don't know what that means, at the end of issue 232, or around that, Eggman had Sally, after she had been roboticized and everything, into Mecha Sally, had her set up like this and everything, just standing, I think, like this. And the last image people saw in that issue was him with a blowtorch, aimed at her face. And the next issue or so saw her introduction as weaponized Mecha Sally. And to say folks were not too thrilled about that would be an understatement, to say the least. It would be an understatement. I mean, like I said before, when this whole thing started back then, I didn't read all the issues until it was over. And even when I saw that issue, I was like, honestly, even looking back, even thinking back on it now, I thought to myself, this is stupid. This is stupid. Because why do this? I mean, Ian Flynn, I'll give him credit. He came out, like I said in one video, he came out and he acknowledged why he was doing this. He reaffirmed why he did it. He basically wanted to put the freedom fighters at the lowest point so that if plans had originally gone as he wanted, they would have rose up and overcame the odds and shown, everyone, the newer viewers and that were wondering, or the newer readers that were wondering why they were so beloved, also showing the established longtime readers why, they always were fan favorites and why they were always popular in their eyes, but also in stories showing the likes of someone like Eggman that, hey, no matter how many times you knock us down, no matter how many super weapons you come up with, you'll never beat us. You'll never defeat us. And again, as I said, that's a great direction to go in, but there are other ways of doing it. You could, I mean, Ken Penders, Ken Penders, criticize the guy all you want, but at least when he took Sally out of the equation, originally he was going to kill her off until Sega stepped in and everything and said, no, you're not going to do that. He came up with the compromise. That compromise basically being the fact that, okay, instead of killing her off, I'll put her in a coma and bring her back. And that's what he did. But he took her out of the equation without doing anything worse, without basically saying, she's going to be, I'm going to kill her off, but I'm going to bring her back and I'm going to cybernetic her and He didn't do any of that. He just said, I'm going to take her out of the equation right now, make it seem like she's dead, and then reveal to everybody that she's alive. And that's what he did. Whether that was his original plan or not, that's what he did. He didn't drag it out. He didn't drag her being in a coma or assumed dead for so many issues. He did what he had to do for the 4 issues he had and went from there. Ian here decided he wanted to top that by saying, hey, I'm going to go the next step, and I'm going to not only roboticize her, I'm going to weaponize her and really bring the freedom fighters down. But what he didn't realize is at the same time, he was bringing down the fans. And when he basically had her weaponized, it was like, literally, when fans saw this, when fans saw the image of him bringing a blowtorch to her face, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, let me see if I can find the issue where this takes place. Hold on. $256. That's the Genesis one. Yeah, here it is. think this is, yeah, this is the issue. I think. Let me see. Yeah, this is the issue. 232. February 2012. 232. So, this is what I'm talking about. This. You see these pages right here. I don't know if you can see that very well. See what I'm saying? What he's doing? So, anyway, this is the last image you get on it. Look at that. People did not like that. I did not like that. You know, people, they didn't like it. They were like, you know, what is he doing? And when the reveal happened, several issues later, the first thing that went through a lot of people's minds, because they saw how the characters were reacting, right? They saw how the characters were reacting. Let's see. Okay, there it is. Just trying to find the place to put it. But like I said, when they saw how the characters reacted, of course, they too, as the fans, the readers, reacted very similar. But here was the thing, though. Here was the thing. The debate was on. The debate was on. Now, I tried to come to Ian's defense by saying I don't think he had him, you know, do what everybody was perceiving that Eggman did. I looked at the fact that all Eggman was doing, because he was measuring the arms and everything, I think all Eggman did was put armor on her. He basically put weaponized armor. Now, some people can say that, you know, maybe that's true. Maybe that's true to an extent. But other people feel that he had Eggman in story do the one thing that really just, to me, was a gut punch to anybody that was a fan of the comic for a long time, was a gut punch to anybody that was a fan of the character for a long time. A lot of fans, when that moment happened at the end of that issue, and then, of course, the reveal about an issue or two later, a lot of people felt that Ian Flynn in story had Eggman gut Sally. I'm not joking. I'm not joking about that. A lot of fans felt that Ian Flynn had Eggman gut Sally. And what I mean by gut Sally, in other words, you know, because you see the thing on her head and all that, and then you see the blowtorch, and then you look at the ending of one of these stories in the upcoming issues where he shuts the back of her like that. You know, a lot of people would say that's not armor. That's a new original body. He basically gutted her and he gave her that body. And it's like when you think about it, you know, you can't argue with, you know, that logic, if you will, because in story, you can't put anything past, you know, this version of Eggman. And again, the reaction of the characters when they first see her, and Tails is the one that says, you know, and everybody's like, oh my God, what did he do? What did that sicko do to her? And Tails is the first one to point out he weaponized her. You know, it doesn't sit very well with a lot of fans. It really doesn't. It doesn't sit well with a lot of fans. Because one, why in the world would you take it that far? I mean, this is supposed to be an all ages comic, right? Now, I get there was any comics, you know, throughout the history of comics, period, you know, comic books and characters and the audience basically comic books and the characters have to grow up along with the audience. Like when the audience, the fans, if you will, start getting older and you want to keep them around, you don't want to lose them, that you have to grow up the comic along with them. You have to make the stories and the characters more mature and maybe darker and all that, and, you know, more complex. You know, that's understandable. But even back then, Sonic the Hedgehog by Archie Comics was still looked at as an all ages comic. You know, so why do this? Go in this direction that shows that this is not what an all ages comic is about. If you catch my drift. And again, it brought up that debate of how did this happen? Did he put armor on her, which I tend to believe he probably did, giving Ian the benefit of the doubt? Or when you really think about it, did in story he have Eggman gut her? And I think honestly, if you were to put a poll out there, of, okay, what do you think he really did? What do you think Ian Flynn had Eggman really do to her? Did he have Eggman gut her to weaponize her, or did he have Eggman put armor on top of her body to weaponize her? And honestly, if you put that poll out there, you'll have a huge percentage of people saying he gutted her because of the fact that the way, things had changed with her, the way she was basically put into sync with, Metal Sonic, how they both had like there's a scene, I think, in Sonic Universe where both of them are, told to combine basically to get in sync and combine their power or something like that, to where, Sally's on this side and Metal Sonic's on this side, and they both unleash at the same time something that's, kind of a blast that's in sync, that basically connects with themselves. It's like, it's like, again, if, if you put that poll out, people will say he gutted her. And, not a lot of folks, like I said, not a lot of folks liked it. I mean, yeah, some people will defend that it did make the story more intriguing and interesting, and you want to see what happens next. But still, a lot of people will say that, realizing that Eggman by Ian Flynn in the story had Eggman gut Sally to weaponize her, make her into what she was, it didn't really sit well with folks. I mean, yeah, they still probably read the story and enjoyed it to an extent, or kind of were back and forth about it, or didn't like it, period, like me, and only probably saw the potential of what could have been good and then saw it fall down flat on its face. It's like, you have to, to quote James Rolfe, I'll put it this way, to quote James Rolfe, the angry video game nerd, basically the question is, the quote and paraphrase him, you have to wonder, what was he thinking? What was Ian Flynn thinking that this was going to get over? It wasn't. And thankfully, when the soft retcon reboot happened, whether any of us like it or not, thankfully, not only did we get Sally back when it was all said and done, but guess what happened? According to several reports, Ian Flynn was never allowed to work on another story involving any of the Sonic girls, or at least he was not allowed to write the dialogue for those characters, whatsoever, or write the scenes for those characters, even if he was the main writer on the story, because of what he did. And you know what? He can deny that all he wants. Maybe, but there's a lot of evidence that's out there that states otherwise. I mean, you look at Spark of Life. You look at some of the other stories involving the female characters, and the main writers are female. One of the main writers for Spark of Life is Aaliyah Baker. One of the main writers for some of the other stories involving the girls is Evan Stanley. I mean, Evan, her recent story that Game Apologist just did a Sonic speed reading through, Evan Stanley, was her first story on the IDW book. Even though it had Sonic and Tails in it as a part of it, along with Shadow, the main focus was on the girls. The main focus was on Rouge. The main focus was on Amy. The main focus was on Cream. And even to her introduction, the main focus was on Belle. And here's the thing. Here's why. It's not because Ian Flynn was taking a break or working on other projects, nothing like that. It's because of the fact that, they didn't trust Ian Flynn to write that story or to come up with the next story because of what potentially he would do. They didn't trust him. So they decided to go with Evan Stanley. They decided, Evan, you're going to write the next story. Ian, you're going to work on something else. And that's what they did. They probably realized that, hey, we're not going to take a chance with this guy again, whatsoever. We're not going to take a chance with this guy, with this kind of situation. We'll put him on something else. And he can make up an excuse all he wants. But I think the truth is they'd rather have had Eva and Stanley work on the story, which was going to focus mainly on the girls, if you will, of IDW Sonic, than Ian Flynn, because they don't trust what he did, because they don't trust him based on what he did back in the Archie book. And even with the Archie book, he didn't, after that all was said and done, like I said, with Spark of Life, some of the other stories involving Sally and Bunny, excuse me there, he didn't work much on those stories. I mean, he may have had a hand in them, but it didn't work mostly on them when I said, when it came to the scenes of the dialogue, because of what he did. And again, I'll give him credit for recently on one of his Bumblecasts coming out and admitting, look, I did this because I wanted to bring the Freedom Fighters down to the lowest level so that they would build them, so that in the end, people would see why they're so beloved and everything, because they get themselves back up and prove to those that doubt them or try to keep them down that you can't keep us down. You cannot keep us down. You cannot, that you can build all these super weapons that I mentioned earlier to try to hurt us, but we're not going to fall. And again, that's a great directive. That's a great plan to go with. But the honest truth is they didn't. The honest truth is I think Ian Flynn realizes, he's not going to admit it though, that maybe this wasn't the best decision. That all he had to do was roboticize Sally. If he wanted to do that, that's fine. Keep it for maybe 4 to 6 issues at most, 6 issues at most. And then maybe have her get her free will back. And then if you want to keep her roboticized, that's fine. But then make it her mission, along with her friends, to find a cure to get her back to normal. And that's it. Easiest solution. You didn't have to go this route or anything. You could have just kept it simple. And when you really get down to it, folks, I think it's decisions like this that really caused the book to have a downfall with Archie. It really did. It wasn't the fact that they were delayed. It wasn't financial reasons. It wasn't just a lawsuit, although that did play a major part behind the scenes. It was also the fact that Ian was coming up with stories that at first they were okay with, but then the more they started to notice these stories' direction that they were going in, like how they were coming out, how they were being written and all that, I think that's when they started realizing, yeah, maybe this guy is not the best choice right now, because he just keeps dragging on and doesn't get to the point. So I'm guessing that may have played a major factor too. Who knows? But yeah, when you think about this month, I said that basically December of 2021, the final page of issue 230 was the beginning of the Mecha Sally arc. It was. Last month marked 10 years since the first full issue in the entire saga began, and that's in January. And that was in January of 2020 of 2012, if you will. But now this month marks 10 years since that last panel began the stages or started the chapter, if you will, the arc, if you will, the chapter, if you will, the long chapter of the Mecha Sally arc with her being weaponized. And again, it's something that fans did not like because they weren't sure whether or not she was gutted or she had armor put on her. And like I said, if you do a poll asking which option do you think was the option that Ian would go with storyline wise, or did go with, they would say he went with the gutted part. And again, why would you do that in an all ages comic? It doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense to me. But what can you do? What can you do when you in the long run? What can you really do? It's almost like, to me, Ian Flynn, look, I understand he wanted to create his own magnum opus, all right? And he kind of accomplished that with the Metal Virus saga. But guess what? Just like the Mecha Sally World Tour 2 Death Egg Mark II arc, had worn out its welcome, basically not even halfway through. The Metal Virus arc did the same thing. It worn out its welcome halfway through. And like I've said, when you have someone like Mega Beatman, who's known to do his True Blue reviews, when he finally gets to the final issue of it, sounding, elated that it's over. And when you have someone like Game Apologist saying, yeah, I liked it, but, I'm elated that it's over because it was too long, then yeah, maybe you should realize by then that perhaps going with a shorter route when it comes to story arcs like that is the better option. It really is, in my opinion. It really is. But again, it's just one of those situations, folks, that when you get down to it, to me it was a decision that didn't need to be made. You could have had, if you wanted to keep Sally not weaponized but roboticized, that's fine. But have Eggman maybe create duplicates of her, so that way, and then that way maybe you can weaponize the duplicates, throw Sonic and the friends off the trail, make them wondering what's going on, only for them to finally realize, okay, he must have the real Sally on the death egg somewhere. And then there you go. Easy as pie. Easy as pie, in my opinion. But again, we'll never know. We'll never know if maybe, he could have done something like that, or, gone in that kind of a direction or not, because I think it would have been easier. It would have made more sense, honestly. It would have made more sense. I mean, think about it. Think about it this way from a story perspective, if things had not got screwed up. Think about this from a story aspect. They rescue Sally, they take her back to be de-roboticized, see that she can't be de-roboticized, and maybe it causes the machine to explode, or something, or malfunction. Yeah, that's what I'm pointing out, TransFan, and welcome to the live chat. Again, for those joining me, super chats and super stickers are on and are appreciated if you could do it. $1 to $5, whatever you can do would be greatly appreciated. But again, like I said, it would have made more sense if they would have done something like that, to where, okay, the de-roboticizer malfunctions and they realize this isn't the real Sally. And then finally, maybe Tails or somebody comes up to the conclusion she's on the death egg. He must still have her on the death egg somewhere. And then there you go. You go and get her that way. Makes it easier. Makes it easier and everything. You do your complex story, and then you have the realization, the aha moment that, oh, the real one's on the death egg somewhere, hidden away. And there you go. There you go. Basically it makes things less controversial. And I will agree with TransFan here. With TransFan, we have to remember, whether you're supporting Ian Flynn or you don't, he was originally a writer for a fan comic he did called Other M. Yeah, Other-M. And if you guys have not seen Other M, I suggest looking it up. Look it up, and you'll see exactly why TransFan, basically, is reminding me right now in the live chat, should we be surprised that this is something, Ian would do, something that, Ian would not, that we shouldn't put past Ian Flynn, I should say. And then he's telling me right here, should we really be surprised that Ian Flynn possibly had Eggman gut Sally? And that's the point. That's the point for debate, like I said, because we don't know. I mean, I tried to defend it at one point, saying, oh, he may have just welded armor on her and all that. But the more you think about it, he opened one of the final panels in one of the future issues, I think the next issue, 233, he puts a power ring in there. I don't know how this worked. That basically would prevent her, a modified power ring, by the way, that would prevent her from getting her free will back and basically act like a freaking battery and shuts her back. You can't argue with the fact that, you can't argue with the fact that maybe, there is some truth to that. But here's the thing. Ian Flynn's not going to come out and admit it. He's not going to come out and admit on Bumblecast, as if somebody asked a question, he's not going to come out and say, oh, yeah, about that. I hear people say I gutted her, had Eggman gut her. Yeah, that's kind of true. That's kind of true. And then maybe he'll explain, actually, what actually what happened in the story, and I wanted to put it in there, but they felt it was probably too dark, is I had Eggman detach her head, modify her head a little bit, and then take her body, put it to the side, store it, and then basically bring out the weaponized body he had built for her, to be very similar to her original, and go from there. Again, he's not going to come out and admit that. He's not going to come out and say, yeah, I had Eggman take that blowtorch and just slice her up and then build her body into a weapon. He's not going to come out to admit that, because if he does, he knows people would get on him. He knows people would get on him. I mean, when he came out and he said that Sally getting gunned down in 225 was basically her being turned into the equivalent of Swiss cheese, nobody liked that. Nobody cared for that. They felt that was disturbing and unnecessary. So if he comes out and admits what people are suspecting him to, be a perpetrator of, he knows he'll get backlash there too. And again, this goes now back to why, later on in the post-soft retcon and reboot, and even furthermore in IDW, whether, this is the reasoning or not, you don't see him, writing stories or even writing the dialogue or scenes for female characters based off what he did to Sally. And he knows it. Yeah, and see, TransFan is saying that my idea would have been better than what we got, because again, you have Eggman putting Sally, a roboticized Sally, in a duplicating machine, or you have his Death Egg manufacture duplicates of Sally, and thus by making these duplicates, he can weaponize them and basically make all these different clones to the point that it throws the freedom fighters off and everything. And thank you for the compliments on the PMVs and the live stream, David. I really appreciate it. But yeah, it would have been a better solution. And honestly, again, shortening the storyline, shortening Sally being under his control to a few issues, to where if you want to keep her roboticized, but now she wants to make it her mission to not only find a cure for her, but to finally take Eggman down or take the Death Egg down, would have been a lot better. It would have been a lot better. The point, look, like I said, we all appreciate that Ian, whether we want to admit it or not, we appreciate the fact, that Ian, came out in his recent podcast. Hold on for a second. Oh, about time. No, that's the garbage truck now. It just came. But like I said, we can respect and appreciate, whether we like the guy or we don't, and what any decisions he's made, we can respect the fact that at least he came out on his Bumblecast recently and admitted why he did it. Even though we may not all agree with it. But yeah, when you look at this upcoming year, these first few months, if you will, not only the end of last year, marking the beginning of it with the last few pages and everything, the last page period, but then last month and this month, and then going into next month and in April, when you look at these first 4 months of where it really started, this whole Mecha Sally thing really started to become what it was. And this month here, like I said, 10 years ago marked the beginning of when he weaponized her, basically marked the weaponized portion of the story arc that, again, a lot of fans are debated on. They feel like it shouldn't have happened. They feel like, they could have gone a different way with it. And again, this is coming from the guy that basically tried to equivalent Sally being gunned down at the end of 225 to that of being turned into Swiss cheese, as well as TransFan put it. This is the guy that basically is known for doing the Other Ram story arc. That's what he's known for. So, again, it's just one of those situations, folks, to where, yeah, it's been 10 years and we should get over it. But again, when you're an avid subscriber like I was since issue 72, and you have in your collection that issue, it's a reminder as to why sometimes, certain writers, it's great to bring them on and give them an opportunity, but that maybe you should go over twice, with them about, or multiple times with the decisions they want to do, because maybe, it may not be very receptive by a lot of fans in the end when you think about it. But anyway, yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Just wanted to talk about that as this topic here, as the third topic here. And now let's move on to the fourth topic. The fourth topic being 2022, as far as I know, marks 10 years since My Little Pony Friendship is Magic Season 3 debuted as the shortest season, but why? Okay, so in case a lot of you don't know, seasons 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 were all 26 episode seasons, except for season 3. Season 3 was only 13 episodes. But why? But why? Yeah, that's a good point. Here's what I'll do, trans fan. I'll